Hey folks, welcome back to the Dev Stream. I'm here always with my co-host Christina Gordon. Christina, you want to say hi?
Hello, I am Christina Gordon. Do you want me to talk about myself?
Cool, cool.
I am the open source community manager at Forum. And yeah, that's me. Nick, do you want to say about yourself before we introduce any?
Sure, cool, cool. My name is Nick Taylor. I'm a senior software engineer at Forum. Forum's the software that powers dev. We're here today. I'm super excited. We're here with Veni Kunche, and we're going to be talking about their career as well as a really amazing project they're working on called Diversify Tech. Thanks so much for coming on the stream, Veni. And if you'd just like to say a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So I'm Veni. I used to work as a software engineer. I worked as a software engineer for about 16 years or so. And about 2 years ago, I started Diversify Tech, where I help underrepresented people in tech find opportunities that they just may not be aware of. Because
Okay.
a lot of times
Yeah.
opportunities are shared within like closed networks. So I wanted to make sure that all of us know about it so that
Yeah.
we can take opportunities are shared with. I've been working on it for about 2 years, and I went full time starting this year in 2020. Yeah, that's me.
Cool. That's awesome.
Nice.
Okay.
I just want to say that this year I was on a job search and I used that job board every week. It's super helpful because it's not like just a job board where they just like list the job, but it like has actual stuff broken down, like probably a price range or who is in the company and more information. And a lot of the companies will actually say like what the steps are for hiring. And I actually just launched a course on LinkedIn today and I found that the LinkedIn like opportunity from your job board. So
Oh, cool. Nice. Cool. Yeah. So before we start talking a little more about Diversify Tech, I'm really curious about your software career because before we jumped on the stream, I popped on your LinkedIn a few days ago just to because I know you've been a software engineer for a while now. So it'd be kind of cool just to hear about your experiences in the industry and then how you came to bring Diversify Tech to life.
Yeah. So I actually studied computer science in college. So this was in 1999 to 2003. It's a long
Okay.
time ago. So I studied computer science. And at that time, there were a few women, but not as many. And also, it was, at that time, I didn't think about it much. But my computer science classes, it was like at the beginning, it was a little bit more diverse.
Yeah.
Diverse in meaning, there were a lot more women and men, but minority is. I lived in Wisconsin, so in terms of
Okay.
people of color, it was pretty like non-existent.
Yeah.
But one thing I noticed in those 4 years, as time went on, it was just like fewer and fewer and fewer women by the time you finally graduated. So I didn't think about it that much. I was just like struggling to get through the classes.
Yeah, for sure.
That was how my first 4 years was. And then my first job, actually, one of the reasons, motivation behind starting Diversify Tech was I struggled quite a bit to find my first job. It took
Okay.
me about 2.5 years or so to get my first full time with benefits job,
Yeah.
because I felt like on paper, I felt like I was qualified, right? Because I
yeah.
studied computer science. I felt like I did all the right things.
Yeah.
But when I applied to jobs, honestly, I just never heard from people.
Yeah.
Um, and then I went to resume. I got my resume reviewed. I went, asked for suggestions on recruiters, and some of the folks suggested, why don't you say U.S. citizen under your name in your resume? And I was like, at that time, it didn't click like why they
Yeah.
were saying it. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I'll try this. I tried it, and actually my response rate increased. So my official name is actually like Krishna Kunche,
Okay.
which is like very, very foreign name and very like
Yeah.
non-white name. So I think people, just based on my name, were just like not even reading my resume. And so I struggled through that, and then my first few jobs were actually like I freelanced. I actually did an internship after I graduated. And then eventually, like I got a referral at a company through a friend, and that's how I got my first job. So that
Oh,
was, can be very discouraging because 4 years spending time to
Yeah.
study, and computer science classes are very, very hard. Um, to go through all that and not find a job was kind of like disheartening.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I did find my first job eventually. Uh, and my first job was actually at the U.S. Geological Survey. And it was pretty cool applications I built. Web applications. My first one was to like help farmers to figure out which pesticides to use, so that they know which
Yeah.
pesticides can cause harm to like wildlife and fish and wildlife around their
okay.
areas. So it was like aimed at farmers. So it was cool to actually get into the real world and like work on cool, applications used by real people. And one cool thing about tech is that it's needed everywhere, right? You
Yeah.
wouldn't think of like farmers using,
Yeah.
a website for pesticides, but yeah. So yeah, I enjoyed that quite a bit, working at the U.S. Geological Survey. And then I thought, I actually wanted to do more. It was great, but I felt like I needed something more challenging. So
Mhm.
I actually wanted to get into bioinformatics. That's when
Whoa.
I went and got a master's in computer science with focus on bioinformatics. So like machine learning, data science. Also, I learned all that stuff. But
Nice.
unfortunately, it was like again the same issue when I started looking for jobs. It was again people kept telling me that I was not qualified. But I'm like, I studied everything,
Yeah,
I
I just
Yeah.
have a master's, that's all, So like, yeah, no biggie.
It says right here I'm qualified.
Yeah. No, that's yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was the same thing, and then I actually didn't end up switching to bioinformatics because at that time people kept telling me I needed a PhD.
Mm,
By the time I was like, okay, I'm done studying.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I ended up going back to software engineering again. So I became a web developer for a small startup, which was actually quite fun. I was a startup creating software for engineers to build
Mhm.
fuel efficient semi trucks.
Okay.
So it was like quite interesting. I honestly didn't know anything about semi trucks, how they're
Yeah.
built, but this startup was building software so that engineers can like build the best kind, like the most optimized semi truck, so that it's fuel efficient basically. So yeah, it was like a good learning experience. I was actually more of a back-end developer, but with the
Okay.
startup, I learned more front-end, and I sort of became a full stack after that. So that was a great experience. And yeah, it was then I. But one other thing was, as companies environments, it was a great learning experience, but it was pretty like work-life balance was really, really poor,
Okay.
Mm,
which just seems to be a common thing at startups. So I started looking for something different, and I ended up working for a consulting company where I built again web applications, but I also got to travel.
mhm.
So where my clients were, I could travel, and that was the first time I started working remote too, because the job was on site for a week and off site for a
Mhm.
week. So I got to work remote for every other week.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this was back in like 10 years ago, I think. So it was like remote was pretty new at that time. Not many
Yeah.
companies did it.
Yeah, it's like
But that,
trailblazing. Yeah.
yes, it was cool to do it. But since then, I cannot work non-remote again. I'm so
Yeah.
used to the lifestyle.
Yeah,
So
I can
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
agree with you there. I mean, we're at Forum where our team's globally distributed and we're async
Mhm.
remote, and I was working partially remote before that, but
Mm.
I always knew in my head I wanted to work full remote.
Mhm.
I just know one I just operate better, and it's in terms
Yeah.
of work life balance, like you were saying,
Mhm.
it's definitely helpful, and I don't know, and it's a
Yeah.
great team too. That's a
Yeah. That's awesome.
I
Yeah,
always say I like remote the most, but to be fair, I've only worked remote in tech. So who knows? I might like an office job, but yeah, I really do like the
Yeah. The flexibility is awesome.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big time. So that's like honestly, you've worked on some like very cool projects,
Yeah.
like I've worked at startups and stuff, and cool projects and stuff. But I feel like these things you worked on, like at the first one with like helping fisheries and all that, then
Mhm.
fuel efficiency, like versus somebody saying like, yeah, I made this CRUD app so you can like something or whatever. So it's really cool that you've worked on these like really big impactful projects, like even if eventually you're like work life balance, that's a whole other topic, but it's just cool experiences that you've had.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, at the end of it, they're all crud apps, I feel like, but
Yeah,
when application to like different customers is, it had cool experiences there. Hmm.
no, that's cool. So so you said Diversify Tech, you started working on that about 2 years ago, is that right?
Hmm. Yes,
Okay.
about 2 years ago. Yeah, like my last full-time job was at the consulting company where I was
Hmm.
traveling. But it was awesome. I had a lot of fun. But again, if you're traveling quite often, I think I was traveling 50% of the time in a year.
Okay.
So that kind of exhausting after a while. That's kind of when I was like, I thought, oh, I think I want to start a business. I want to do something that I have more control over
Hmm.
because I kept switching jobs like every 2, 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, because I think I was looking for the perfect, like I want it to be challenging. I also want flexibility, which is very hard to find.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, let me try, starting a business on my own. Actually, quit my job at that time, and for a year, I told my husband. So my husband and I were both in grad school, and
Okay.
I graduated, and I did the consulting job. And at some point, he also finished his graduation. That's when I was like, okay, since you're starting full time, let me, take some time off. So that's kind of how we made the switch. Once he started working after grad school, I
Okay.
told him, let me do like a 1 year like independent study because I didn't want to go to business school or anything. I was like, let me
Hmm.
do like my own independent study, see if I can start something. So I took a year off, and as with startups, it's actually very, very challenging
Yeah,
to
Yeah.
yeah.
find the right product.
Yeah.
And that year, I think I built like, I don't know, 4 or 5 different things, but I did not quite understand the business side of it, like
Hmm.
how customers, how to, find product market fit, all of that I didn't quite get at the time. But I tried and, learned a lot from all of the different things I tried. And then actually I went back part-time to my first job at the US Geological Work Survey.
Okay.
But I made it clear to them that, I'm here just for part-time, but I'm still going to work on my business. And my boss, who I've known him for years, so he was totally fine with it. He just needed someone to take on extra things that they were having
Okay.
at work. So as I worked on the US Geological Survey, I started working on, different ideas again. And
Hmm.
this actually came out of a volunteering thing, Diversify Tech, because I was volunteering with like Women Who Code and all these other organizations trying to help women in tech. As I volunteered, I realized that I was kind of like building an audience
Hmm.
with women in tech, more underrepresented people. So I was like, oh, I'm already volunteering. I'm already doing all this stuff. Let me see if I can, turn this into more of a full-time
Okay.
job. So that's when I started a newsletter called Code with Veni, which was meant to
Yeah.
inspire women in tech.
Yeah.
And then Code with Veni was my 1.0 kind of
Yeah.
experiment.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so when I started it, I had companies reaching out to me to advertise or post their jobs. That's
Hmm.
when I realized, okay, this is how I can, monetize the business. So
Okay.
yeah, that whatever I learned through Code with Wendy newsletter, I used all of that to start Diversify Tech, and I made Diversify Tech more broad. I didn't want it to be just for women. I wanted to include, everybody who's
Yeah.
underrepresented. So yeah, it
Okay.
was a long journey. I think it took about 4 or 5 years for me to say I will start a business to finally actually, making money.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, no, that's actually. Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna say just the when your husband was in or when he finished grad school and you said you're taking the year, were you
Mhm.
already was that already like ideas of Diversify Tech, or were you trying other projects at that time?
So it was completely different. Actually,
Okay,
the thought about diversity in tech at that time, actually wasn't aware, even though I was experiencing it, the issues in tech. I wasn't quite aware of all of the other issues in tech. So at
okay,
that time, it was completely different. I tried to start something for wedding businesses to help them gain customers. I tried building mobile app templates was the other idea. Yeah, there
okay,
were quite a few, not related to diversity at all.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I think that's just, I actually think that's really fascinating. The whole like the process of you going from like, okay, I'm gonna take what I've learned over these years. I got this time. My husband and I have done this too over and over again. Like, okay, I get to take a break now. I'm doing this. You get, so I think that's cool too. And then you just kind of like trying to figure out and that
Mhm.
morphing into like where you're at now. I think
Mhm.
that's really cool. This like idea of I think a lot of times and not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing that people have like an idea and they're like, I'm gonna create this business and I'm gonna make this work. And you're kind
Mhm.
of going into it like, I'm gonna create a business. I'm not sure if you're gonna make work, but then kind of learning from that and going from there. And I think that's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for
Yeah,
sure.
so my brother actually did an MBA, so he took, I think, about 3 years to go through that study.
Okay,
So I was like, I got kind of tired of studying, so I was like, okay, I don't want to go to actual school and spend money again.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let me just try learning on
Yeah.
my
yeah.
own.
No, for sure. Yeah, I did my bachelor's in computer science, but I had no
Mhm.
inclination to do a master's or anything further. I'm not
Mhm.
really academia material, and I have a friend who's done his bachelor's, his master's, and his PhD in chemistry, and it's like I don't know. It's a long journey, like it's a lot
Yes.
of time in
Yeah.
school, and excuse me. And I don't think I could handle that. And two, I think,
Mhm.
I mean, unless the job really requires those degrees, like some
Mhm.
do, I, but I think at least in web development, I can't speak for all aspects of software
Mhm.
development, but web development, I think, you can get by with like there's self-taught, there's like people did go to
Mhm.
school and so on, but
Mhm.
yeah,
Well, I think that
No, I
also
agree.
depends on where you're at.
Mhm.
that too,
So
yeah, yeah.
I mean, um, I'm living in a different country now. I know that like I can't just like necessarily come here and be like I'm self-taught and necessarily get a job in web development. Like I'm still working out of the U.S. and I know that's for a lot of people. So,
Okay,
Mhm.
but
that's
yeah,
true.
it depends on where you go.
It's true.
Yeah,
Sorry,
same.
I was caught in my North American bubble there. I
It's
apologize.
okay.
So, so can you kind of explain all the things
Mhm.
about Diversify Tech? Because from the outside, from what I've
Mhm.
seen, like I know you're always posting jobs on Twitter. Is it mainly
Mhm.
for job postings, or is there other services you provide?
Mhm. So for companies on the company side, it's mainly the job board. So I
Hmm.
help
Okay,
companies kind of reach an audience that don't, they're not as exposed to. Yeah, a lot of HR, a lot of recruiters, they tend to sometimes be in their own bubble. So job board is to like reach underrepresented people in tech. So that's the main way, that service that I provide for companies. I actually also have a newsletter for them. It's like a curated newsletter where I share things that they can learn about diversity in tech.
okay,
Because different companies are at different uh, uh, levels, I guess, different paths on their journey. Some are like just learning about it and they don't know where to start. Some are further ahead, but at the same time, diversity and inclusion is it's not it's still very experimental. I feel like there is no like here is the right answer. It depends
yeah,
on
Yeah.
the company, what they need to do. So it's very so so my what I do in the newsletters expose them to different opinions.
Okay.
So especially feature articles written by underrepresented people, the issues they're
Hmm.
facing, so that they're aware and take that feedback in. And one recruiter told me that there are a lot of recruiting newsletters out there, but they all focus on the company, how
Okay.
to
Yeah.
safeguard the company, but
Yeah.
there aren't many that actually connect them to the actual candidates and what their thoughts are. So that's kind of what I try to do, is connect them to that. And in the newsletter, also I feature people who are looking for jobs. So
Okay.
like direct access,
Yeah.
because I just want main thing we want is to get people hired. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, here are people that are looking for jobs, so just reach out, you know.
Yeah.
So those are the two things I do for the companies. And
Okay.
for underrepresented people in tech, I try to it's connecting them to jobs. And as Christina mentioned, uh, one thing I slightly did differently with the job board is I asked the companies for their stats, like their demographics of their team. So
Okay.
I asked them how many total people are on your tech team, how many of them are people of color, how many of them are women in tech, how many LGBTQ individuals are there. So because what happened was a lot of companies when they try to um, attract candidates, they do it
Yeah.
from a marketing and branding perspective. And
Yeah.
sometimes they overdo the branding, and you think they are like a very diverse company, and you join them, and they are not.
Yeah.
So that gets like for somebody, if I'm a candidate and I thought that this company was a certain way, and I joined, and you end up being like the only black person, but the company made it seem like something different. So
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me, I just want to be as transparent as possible because I want the candidates to know what they're getting into,
Yeah, for
so
sure.
that they can see the stats. So that's slightly what I do differently. Yeah. So that's, and I also like share anything else like scholarships, if there are events in tech that I think would be
Okay.
useful. So things like that I share in the newsletter for underrepresented people in tech.
Okay. And in terms I generally don't ask tough questions, but I'm like this is like it's like an important topic. So like, there's stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah. Go
um
ahead.
is it you that approaches the I'm assuming it's you that approaches the companies, or do companies actively come to you and say, hey, we need help. We
Mhm.
know this is an issue and we want to improve it, and we're not just, doing, a
Mhm.
tokenized person, like, hey, there's the black
Mhm.
guy in accounting, so we're good, like
Mhm.
I feel
Mhm.
like it's kind of complex and touchy. So I don't know if
Yeah. Luckily, it's all been inbound for me. So everything on the job board is companies coming to us.
okay.
One of the things that I think worked out was that I grew our community first. So I
Hmm.
completely focused on how can I help underrepresented people in tech, and through that, the community grew. And once I launched the job board, my community actually refers me to companies. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
so it's been all through their roles. So it's been great that way. So I'm not really convincing anybody to care about diversity, which
Hmm.
honestly I don't want to do. I want
Yeah.
people who are already ready and care to come. So this has been the referrals have been working out that companies who care kind of
Okay.
come for help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to say something that I've seen on Twitter when I followed you and stuff like that that I really respect, like we're talking about like the whole vetting system and stuff, is that when you do have people come on or like it's not
Mhm.
a good fit, I've seen you just be transparent about that. Just be like, I've had to take this person off. I found out it wasn't like what I thought, or I just had
Mhm.
to turn this
Yeah.
down, which from a business perspective is hard, obviously, but like
Mhm.
you said, you have your community, you have this kind of like,
Mhm.
this is what I want this to be, and you've stuck with it. And I've really
Mhm.
seen that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, it's been definitely hard.
Yeah.
Uh, because
Yeah.
sometimes I get like quite a few companies that come in and who are quite not ready to get underrepresented people in tech because there are already issues within them.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just have to say no, because it's happened in the past where when I didn't quite understand the issues around diversity and inclusion when I had
Hmm.
first launched Coded Veni, During that time, one of my first customers, they shared their job, all of that. And like a year later, I learned that somebody, a woman in tech, a woman of color, actually took this job because it was advertised and
Okay.
ended up having a horrible experience.
Yeah.
And I feel terrible about it. And that's why I'm just like, I learned my lesson. So I'm like, I'm extra, extra cautious that, that I don't do that. At the same time, it's like hard to know from the outside.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah.
all I can do is reduce the harm as much as I can. But eventually, the company has to figure things out.
Yeah.
So, so in terms of people in the pipeline looking to get hired, do you've obviously built up trust with the community. So like, do you find that the folks that have gotten jobs through Diversify Tech, were they also applying outside of the Diversify Tech job board, or like kind of just still applying everywhere, or is it like more laser focused to like, I know Veni vetted this company, so
Mhm. Yeah. From what I can tell, I think they apply to quite a few um, different ones if they're a
Okay.
beginner, because entry level jobs are very hard to get by. So I think they use a lot of different sources, and it's been hard even for me to get entry level jobs. So it varies. But if they're more in like later stages, if they're mid-level, senior level, and they're more casually, some folks have told me like I only use your job board because I know
Okay.
like the stats and everything they use base their decision on just that. So yeah, I think it depends on where they are in their tech journey, and also um, I think it depends on and also it's like Diversify Tech has been there for only 2 years, so
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
so
yeah,
I
no, for
think it'll.
sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, from my own personal experience, I think I kind of agree with that. Like, I guess I would say I'm more mid at this point, and it was a nice thing for me to just be like, I can go on there and I know like that I will probably find companies that I can trust more. I've been burned in the past by companies. I didn't want that. I wanted to like kind of vet it out and stuff. And yeah, I could still look at other things, and I have my own network of stuff that I can look at now and kind of reach out to. But it was still like this nice
Yeah.
place to go and just kind of like be able to be like, yeah, these companies I can probably, because you invest so much time and effort and everything when
Mhm.
you're applying for jobs. So it's a nice
Yeah.
thing to be like, if I'm going to be doing this, this is probably a company, and it's still on all of us to like still vet out these companies ourselves too, but probably a
Yeah.
company that
Mhm.
it's worth putting some of this time and effort into. So
Mhm.
Yeah, no, for sure. And in terms of the company itself, I- are is it currently just you, the employee, like you've put everything up, or do you have staff that works with you now, or are you still small enough that you're managing it yourself?
I manage most of it. I have a few freelancers who help me with like a little bit of social media or like data entry. Sometimes a lot of what I do is curation. So
mhm.
Okay.
sometimes I just like getting all of it and putting it into a database. So for things like that, I do have some help.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to kind of expand to like Europe and Canada next year.
Mhm.
Okay.
So for that, I don't think I can handle that on my own. So I'm trying to see how I can partner with folks who already know about the region, who can kind of like help me start up that side of it. So in the future, but for now, it's just me mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's
And
really cool. I think it's been interesting because I think I've been on Twitter long enough to kind of see your progress from like, at
Mhm.
least like probably 4 years or so ago. So it's been very interesting to see the growth. And I think at some point, didn't you share kind of like your milestones and stuff with the company this year? Like you said, you went full time this year, right? On
Mhm.
Diversified Tech, which is I think amazing and great. And then there's been some other milestones you've shared, hasn't there? Like I'm trying to remember. Yeah.
Yeah, we crossed. Right now, we're at 6,500-ish subscribers for the
okay.
newsletter. That was like crossing
Nice.
5,000 was awesome, and I also crossed like our 100th issue this
Hmm.
year. for our newsletter. And for revenue, I actually crossed $10,000 per month for revenue too, which was honestly didn't expect it yet. I was
Yeah.
expecting to reach that next year.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that was
Yeah.
like really awesome. So that's why I'm thinking a little bit bigger now.
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So for goals and things like that, do you kind of just spend like at the beginning, like, so, the beginning of the year is about to start. Do you have kind of like this like Q1 of like goals that you kind of come up with and that you start thinking and stuff like that? I mean, you're a business, so do you have
Mhm.
stuff that you're kind of going through with that?
At last year around this time, I did have plans. I was like, my goal for the end of 2020 is to get $5,000 per month per revenue.
Hmm.
That was
Okay.
like my goal.
Wow, look at
And
you,
then
doubled that.
I wanted to cross 10,000 subscribers, which didn't
Uh-huh.
happen, which is fine. But I made all of those plans and I had like action items for like these are all the things I'm gonna do. And then of course COVID happened,
Yep.
Yeah.
which was just like completely derailed everything. In March, actually, I was like, should I actually continue? Is what my thought was because I think when I quit my job, I was making around $2,500 per month, which is
Yeah.
why I was like, okay, if I put more effort, I can, grow more. Is why I quit my
Mhm.
job. But once COVID hit, it went down to like $500 per month. I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I think companies just paused because everybody was freaking
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
and then it picked up again. And but yeah, and also because of COVID, like I had to keep my daughter at home for a few months, so
Yeah.
it was just like till July, all I was trying to do was just maintain it.
Yeah.
All my goals just went out the
Survive.
window. I was like,
Yeah.
survival. Because I was taking care of my daughter full time. I was like, what's the least I can do but keep this going? you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. 2020 has
Yeah,
just
but
been a dumpster fire. It's
yeah,
it's like, yeah,
for sure.
you're already on the ground. Oh, and you're kicking me too now. Thanks, 2020. Yeah. No, but I gotta say
That's what
that's
I.
pretty
Yeah.
amazing that you've been able to keep the
Yeah.
company going even because like I know I mean, I'm very thankful that we have jobs and stuff, but I know some people were let
Mhm.
go, and like you said, the companies were freezing. Everybody's moving
Mhm.
to remote life who had never done it before. Like
Mhm.
it was just so many things going on that
Mhm.
I can definitely see how that definitely put a kink in your plans, like based on what you're doing with Diversify Tech. So no,
Yeah.
kudos to keeping it going. Yeah, no, it's
Thank you.
yeah,
That must be interesting though to have those kind of like a little bit of those insights, right? Though, because you knew like COVID hit, obviously all of us were like, oh no, and then that's like where companies had the freeze and stuff. Like I was applying for jobs during that time, so I know I kept going through like these, but kind of having that like sense of like, oh look, it's picking up again. Maybe the job market's picking up again. Like if people are starting to like
Mhm.
come back and start posting stuff on yours, then you kind of already have that insight that maybe other people don't have. Like uh
Mhm.
it's like an interesting perspective of like, oh, a job board, you do get those insights that other people have like,
yeah.
oh look, where things aren't going so bad anymore. Maybe
Well,
2020.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's also nice. It's kind of validation that like the worst year in like probably since the last pandemic, it validates that what you're doing is a great project because it's been able to thrive still
Mhm.
with that. So, you know, it's
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've been quite lucky. Like I think, my community kind of like stuck with me, I guess, which I'm very thankful for. So they kind of kept it going.
in
As
terms of
someone who's go ahead, Nick. Go.
oh no, I was
Go
just
ahead.
gonna you can go ahead. Now you go.
I was gonna say, as someone who's a community manager, the community side is interesting to me. So that's what I was gonna go from. Do you have any insights on kind of like how you kind of started with? So you had the code with Vinny. Is that kind of where you started with the community? There is like growing it from there, and then moving it over to Diversify Tech when that kind of became the thing.
Yeah, yeah. So with Coded Veni, I had initially focused on just women in tech,
Mhm.
and that's kind of how I think I worked on it for 2 years, and we grew to like 2,500 like members. So like it got to that point.
Okay.
But I ran it for 2 years, and I wasn't, in order to keep it sustainable, I wasn't really making money.
Yeah.
I got maybe a sponsor or two, like once or twice.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's why I was thought more about it from like the business side too, like how do I monetize this? And
Yeah.
another thing I noticed is that as I was running Code with Veni, like I noticed that all of the women in tech organizations also tended to lean towards more white women. And honestly, like I didn't know where at that time there weren't that many people of color organizations. There were few.
Yeah.
There are a lot
Okay.
more now, which is awesome. But at that time, there weren't that many. So that's why I was like, okay, Code with Veni, I felt like wasn't enough. So that's why I like made Diversify Tech and asked people, whoever wants to join that, kind of advertise it as more like a more inclusive place for
Hmm.
anybody who's
Okay.
underrepresented. Yeah, like community wise, it's been cool because a lot of the beginning members are like people I know, like I met
Yeah.
at conferences or I met at events or like on Twitter. So it was
Yeah.
very much like had a personal like thing at the beginning, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Very
And
cool.
and and in terms of the events, is it you curating events that you think would be interesting, or are you actually holding your own events too, or is that something you're thinking about?
I if COVID wasn't there this year, one of the
Yeah.
things I wanted to try was host my own events.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to try. But with COVID and my daughter being at home, I couldn't even take conference calls. Like I couldn't even
Yeah.
take
Yeah, yeah.
video calls with
My
people.
daughter
So I
was
was
just
like,
yelling outside the door a minute ago, so I got you.
okay. So I was like, okay, not this idea anymore. But yeah, yeah. But events I
Yeah.
mostly curate to things I think people would
Okay.
be
Yeah.
interested in.
Yeah.
By the way, she does have a newsletter for people who are not businesses that you can get, and those events are on there along with job lists. So
Yeah.
if you want that to
I
your
saw
email.
I saw as well because I signed up for I can't remember the name of the type of newsletter on your site. I want to say it's like the the Ally newsletter, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I was just I signed up because I was checking out the whole site and stuff. So I guess
Yeah.
part like I'm a white guy in tech, so like so many of these problems I do not have, but I know it is mentally draining to explain to people stuff like minority tax, tokenizing and stuff. So like
Yeah.
is this newsletter kind of, you know, like the 101 of, don't do these things and here's why, or is, cuz like I'm sure if you're always saying these things you're just like, oh man, not again. So
Yeah, yeah, honestly, it is kind of for that purpose. It's mostly like I can't do all the writings because I'm a woman of color, I'm a woman, like I can only speak to those, but
yeah,
other underrepresented people. So that's why I try to, again, I do a lot of curation to find people who are talking about this and who are also themselves are underrepresented too. Because again,
Hmm.
yeah,
there's also an issue in terms of like content creators too. Like a lot of underrepresented people who are content creators, they don't get as much exposure. Like if you go to any newsletter, you
yeah,
look through whose content is being shared, it's like 90% of the time it's like the majority group. And yeah, I went on a tangent, but I try to include, try to curate so that it's both ways. I make sure
okay,
that the content creators are underrepresented themselves, who are talking about um, the issues around tech, because I feel like we need to directly talk to people, listen to
Yeah.
people who are affected. So yeah,
yeah,
it's
for sure.
for business leaders and allies who want to learn, but learn in a way that they'd hear directly from people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Nick, do you want to bring up the website and we can kind of show a little bit of like what's there so people know like what they can find? There's like a great resources part and just even like describing the, I know we keep describing the job board, but I think it's
Yeah.
beneficial to people to actually like see it.
Cool. Give me one sec here. I just lost my. There we go. This is how Christina became super huge the last time we did the stream because I had shared just before we did the stream. So, anyways, okay. First off, I love I love the folks on the right there. I love the animation there. It's really nice. So okay, yeah. So yeah, maybe just we don't have to go through everything, but maybe just kind of give a high level of like all the stuff you're offering on here.
Yeah, if you want to click on the job board or job section, I can show the
Okay.
job board.
Whoops. There we go. Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm clicking on the screen and not the actual browser. That's why. Okay, cool. I was like, why is it shrinking? Um, okay, cool. All right, so we're on the job board page, and okay, so I can already see like
Yeah.
you're showing the diversity in the company with the emojis on the at the bottom
Mm-hmm.
there. Okay.
Yeah. So I started asking people like to give people and the candidates an idea of like how the company is actually diverse, because when it's companies branding people take over, they make it seem awesome, like but you don't actually know
Yeah.
what's behind the scenes. So this was my way of like making it as transparent as possible. And
Yeah.
another thing is that I asked for salary information because a lot of times like underrepresented people are given the advice to like negotiate
Okay.
for salary, but at the same time that is so stressful. You never actually know if you're getting the right uh,
Am I even
level.
close to this number?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes, but you have no idea. So that's why I ask people and companies who are able to share, they share their numbers.
Yeah.
And then recently started asking for like their interview process
Okay.
again because
Which I love. I think
they
that's super helpful.
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like every company has their own process. So when you're
Yeah.
trying to prepare for an interview, like what do you do? Like, should I focus on front end, back end, which language? So it's all very confusing. So that's why I just ask the companies like, what are you going to test them on?
Yeah. No,
And
I think that's a great idea.
and thank you. Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
if you
it's been good
click
to
on them, Nick. Sorry,
Yeah.
we're all kind of lagging a little, so I think we're all over it. You just
So, so just click on one of them.
uh, click on one of them, and then you can kind of see what she's talking about. If you go to times, not all of them have them, but a lot of them do. If you go all the way down towards the bottom, they'll have like the process for like, so what are we, so what's your interview process like? And they'll kind of just, some of them are more descriptive, some of them aren't, but they at least give you like this idea of like what you're getting into. You
Yeah.
to apply to one of these, which I think is really helpful.
I think that's important in general because like it shouldn't be like a surprise quiz, like yeah, I know you
Mhm.
said it was front end, but we're gonna ask you how to deploy this to Kubernetes. Like what? Like
Mhm.
uh
Yeah.
yeah, that might be an
It's when I
extreme example,
cry
but
and say goodbye.
no, but I think it's important because then it allows the candidates to just prepare properly, because and
Mhm.
Yeah.
like at least I mean it's a whole other topic, but interviewing in tech is kind of broken. There's lots of
Yeah.
people talking about that too, so that's a whole whole other topic. But no, this is great that they're being as transparent as possible. I think that's
Mhm.
great for candidates and the qualifications and stuff. And you said the job board it's not just like senior, it's like junior, mid, senior. There's even I see there's
Mhm.
engineering manager positions. Like it's not just software developers. It's there's various things here. So like there's
Yeah, so
infosec
I've
and so
been
on.
focusing on more. I've been focusing on like the tech ones, so like more technical ones, like software development, design, product, data science related positions.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm trying to keep it a little bit niche, otherwise it gets hard to like
Yeah.
manage all of the different fields.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously you've been in this space as well, so you know it well. So
Mm.
probably, you know, it's probably more appealing to work on that. Like who knows, maybe later on,
Mm.
once you're like a
Yeah.
multi-million dollar company and you're like, yeah, sure, we'll do that too. But and uh maybe for companies that would be interested in approaching Diversify Tech, what's kind of the process? Like I know you vet the companies, but like,
Mhm.
maybe give like a high level of like what happens. Like, hi,
Mhm.
I'm Nick from Acme Co. I would like to host
Mm.
a job posting on your site. That was bad
Yeah.
acting, sorry.
Yeah, so I asked them if you want to click on the post a job link.
Yeah,
We can go. I can show you what happens.
sure. Okay.
So if you can click on the guidelines too,
Yeah.
just about the
Okay.
post a job.
There we go. Okay.
Mm. So actually, over the time, I realized that I should let companies know what are like the right fit for our community. So I'm
Okay.
pretty like upfront about them. I say, like our community is mostly developers, designers, like, those roles will work best.
Yeah.
Because I've been getting a lot of like HR and recruiting roles too. Unfortunately, like I haven't curated that kind of the community with those folks. So I
Yeah.
uh, tell them upfront what is good for,
Okay.
what this job board is good for. And then I also let them know like if you go a little bit down, I say, whiteboard interviews, like several candidates have told me, can you please just ask them if they do whiteboard interviews? Based on that,
Yeah.
I'll make
Yeah.
my decision if I should apply or not. So I actually just tell them upfront, like, if you do whiteboard interviews, we're not the right community for you to post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another thing, I let them know that Glassdoor reviews. I As soon as they post, I check Glassdoor reviews, and I look for clues on what the culture is like. So
Okay.
sometimes
Hmm.
from Glassdoor reviews, you can tell if the company has a lot of sexism or racism, or like leadership is bad. Some of them are pretty like revealing. They'll say, like, the reviews will say things like, you just won't, only the favorites get promoted, the rest of us don't,
Okay.
so like
Yeah.
Yeah.
anything, I just try to find clues like that. So once somebody posts, I actually go through Glassdoor reviews. I also search on Twitter, like Google, and
Yeah.
try to see what I can find. And then if something feels off, I kind of like let them know that, I'm sorry, we can't work with you right now. And
Yeah.
sometimes I also reach out if sometimes I have a gut feeling that something is off. So I actually reach out to like past employees
Okay.
and I ask them, would you recommend underrepresented people to work at this company? And like 90% of the time, my gut feeling is like they will tell me like, yeah, I would not,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I actually ask them like, would you be willing to give me feedback? So
Hmm.
ask the company what if they want the feedback. So I actually like collect all of that feedback and give it back to the company, and
Okay.
let them know like,
That,
these are.
They should be paying you for that.
yeah.
That's prove things for them.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still surprised. I mean, I'm not gonna link it or anything, but there's been a dumpster fire of Twitter going on the past couple days
Hmm.
from someone that I don't. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah.
like
Yes.
why even tweet that? Like I don't know. Like anyways, but it just amazes me that I'm not like naive, but I'm like really
Mhm.
still, you know what I mean? Like it's still kind of like I'm not naive, but oh my God, I can't believe this. Like this is like it's add to the dumpster fire of 2020. It's like it's just
Yeah, yeah.
wild. It's
Yeah,
but
and these are people just they're saying out loud, but a lot of people, think that way. So yeah,
yeah,
so Glassdoor
Yeah.
reviews and their other review sites they tell you a lot.
yeah, no, for sure. Um, okay,
Mm.
so
So
it's
yeah,
like
that's.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, so that's kind of the process. Like made these guidelines. Otherwise, I was telling companies these after they post. So I've been
Yeah.
being more upfront about it. So I was like, if you feel like you meet these, then post a job. And after they post, I double check on Glassdoor and everything, and then we proceed. Yeah. So it's so far sometimes a lot of manual work, but it's been working out so far.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's it's got to be like typically how long does it take you to vet a company? Because there's some automated stuff you can do perhaps, but
Hmm.
given that even machine learning is biased, you can't
Yeah.
rely on the machines for everything either. But I mean, I'm sure it, like you said at the beginning, when you're curating things, it's pretty time consuming. Like, is it like does it take like a day to vet a company, or I guess it spans over perhaps a week or so, just because you have to gather all this stuff too, and
I think I've done it enough times that it's not too bad. I usually give them 24 hours. I say I'll get back to you in 24 hours. So
Hmm.
I usually at the beginning when I didn't get as many jobs, I used to do a lot more. Now I had to like cut down on what I can do. So
okay,
it's been mostly Glassdoor reviews and Twitter. So those are usually just quick searches that I do.
Hmm.
okay,
And another thing I'm working on adding is like a way for candidates to let me know,
Hmm.
like a little anonymous feedback or something. If it so happens that I did add a company that's not good, that they can let me know right away. And usually
yeah,
on Twitter, actually, once I tweet about a job, if it is a company that it's not good, people have actually reached out to me and told me, hey, these are this company shouldn't be on there. So
okay,
Yeah.
then I actually just remove it right away and I tell the company like this is what I got. So then they have to think about it too.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
a feedback for them too.
Well, I think that's
Yeah.
great that
So
your
yeah,
community's also helping you in that respect, because like obviously
yeah,
yourself does not scale well. So that's great that
yeah,
the community's like, yeah, I know you're doing a great job, but this one here, I'm sorry,
yeah,
it's not cutting the mustard.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, I think that says a lot about you and your community in general, though, that your community knows that like this isn't the kind of stuff you'd want, right? Like we get it at Dev all the time with people
yeah,
just being like, y'all probably don't want this, right? And we're like, yep, you're right, thank you.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
because they know what kind of community they're a part of, and it should be. So I think that says a lot about you and the kind of the community you've curated and done. So
yeah. When
yeah,
your
it's
community
great,
starts
great to have
caring,
that.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well,
So
Nick, I don't know if you wanted to ask any more questions, but you did only give her like an hour in the thing you sent. So I didn't know if you
oh, I
wanted to
did.
go
Oh no,
longer.
I didn't do that
Yes.
on purpose. That was me not dragging the thing properly in Google Docs, Google Calendar.
So
Uh,
I didn't want to
no,
take
no,
up
we
much
can.
of her time.
No, we can definitely talk longer there. I did not realize that I booked that. I guess is what challenges do you feel you have still? Like obviously diversity in tech is a problem that's probably going to be around for quite a while. So like that one's like, we've got
Mhm,
to keep working at it, like not just you, but like
mhm,
everybody. But in terms of
mhm,
your business or what you're growing, is there, things you think you need to improve on, or stuff stuff
mhm.
that might be kind of blocking you a bit? uh
Yeah. Yeah, one of the challenges that keeps coming up is that the job board doesn't show entry level positions a lot.
okay,
Yeah.
And that's like a general problem with our industry because a lot of companies just don't hire entry levels. So I've been
Hmm.
trying different ways to like encourage companies to post those. I sometimes post them for free if it's already a vetted company, or
okay,
I say, like I ask them when they're posting a job, would you consider entry level folks for this? So I've been trying different ways, but that's definitely been a challenge because one thing that happens is people come to the job board and they look through the jobs and they see no entry level positions that has like a mental effect on the candidates. Like,
Yeah.
I'm coming to you for help and I can't find it. So I've been trying to curate that more too. Even if companies are not posting, I you know ask on Twitter if there are companies who are hiring. So I have to put like extra effort into that part. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be an ongoing issue just because companies are not, companies have to change and have to be patient,
Yeah.
but that's definitely a challenge for candidates and anybody running a job board. Yeah.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm part of
And
this.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Hmm.
Uh,
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm part of this virtual coffee group, and there's a lot of folks that are new to the industry and trying to land that first job,
Hmm.
and it's every a lot of them are having a tough time. But kind of pretty much in regards to what you said, like companies don't want to hire juniors per se. Well, not necessarily
Hmm.
every company, but
Hmm.
it's you know you need to kind of, I don't know, I the best analogy I can give is like sports, because I played rugby for years, and it's like your team, you have to feed your team, like you need new players to come in
Hmm.
because like other folks on the team are going to
Hmm.
graduate school, so like somebody else has to step up.
Hmm.
So it's like I think it's
Hmm.
super important to have and I don't mean younger people, I just mean people newer to the space. It's important to get them in there because you know
Hmm.
uh you need, like, you still need senior folks obviously, but you need those senior folks to help those folks grow, so that because that's how you scale, right? Like you don't
Hmm.
want
Yeah.
to you don't want that one or two senior devs in the company that are bottlenecks because like
Hmm.
nobody wants to hire new people. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, it's a tough nut to crack. You know I
Yeah.
I I I don't agree with it, but I kind of understand why some companies think that way. Well, not that I don't understand, but I understand what they're thinking. Like, we need to ship this product fast, so we need to hire like a ton of senior devs. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't have answers.
I think you also have the flip side of that where people are like, well, we don't have the infrastructure in place to bring someone in who's
Mhm.
junior. Like they're
True,
thinking like
true.
this too grand, like, well,
Mhm.
they're junior, we can't train them in time versus like, well, this is someone that if you invest a little bit of time in right now, it's probably going to be your senior person who can then invest in other people. And so,
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
for
these
sure.
places are businesses with different kinds of business models, and a lot of them are don't want to take the
Yeah.
risk. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
and the thing is
yeah,
that like tech is like always changing, right? So we're always having to pick up new things. So even senior devs are kind of
Yep.
junior devs,
yeah.
constantly because we have to keep catching up. So that's the part I don't understand. We're all adapting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like junior devs should be able to do that too. Um,
No, for sure.
I think it's
I
a just a weird mindset.
yeah.
Just
I, I'm paraphrasing it because I don't know exactly what they said, but Scott Hanselman, I mentioned in another stream, he gave a, a, a talk at Codeland. I think it was his closing talk, and he was just saying he was
mhm,
kind of I really enjoyed the talk because just the way he transitioned through things, but he was just saying, like, because he's been in the industry for a long time. For folks that don't know who
mhm,
Scott Hanselman is, he's been in the .NET space for like many years now. He's a Microsoft employee, and at one point he's just like, I've just got I have more experience, but I know how to Google better than you right now. Like there's
yeah.
stuff like that, like, because even like you said, like folks are always learning, like, like just because you
Mhm,
go to a company and like all of a sudden like you're thinking about some new tech and nobody knows, have never used it. It's not like you're
mhm,
gonna say, okay, let's stop, like
mhm.
you're gonna learn it,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
I mean, at least most folks that I've worked with would be like, yeah, well, I guess we're just gonna learn this now. It's like,
Mhm.
so yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's I don't know. There's a lot of problems in tech. I'm getting stressed out now.
here's
But
here's the way I look at it now as a parent. Like I was like, okay, when I had my first child, I'm like, who knows what the heck to do with a baby the first time you have one, right? Like we're all new to
Mhm.
this as like parents, and if we can learn to like take care of a child,
Yeah,
Not maybe not everyone can, but most people end up learning how to take care of a child. Then I think
yeah,
I can learn some kind of technology I need to learn to do a
yeah,
job.
exactly. If you, yeah, yeah, my kids are older now, but it's like, yeah, if I can change a diaper while the kid is on my knee while I'm holding a bottle and there's, poop going everywhere, then I can probably figure out how to deploy Kubernetes, like, I don't know. It's, yeah, yeah. And I think part of the thing with junior or new developers is, there's a lot of this, drain on, you need to know this, you need to know that, like you were saying, and it's stressful, and it also, I can see it discouraging folks, like, and I've even see it happen to folks, even like, more senior. Like, I remember even a job I applied to, I waited like almost 6 weeks before applying because I kept self-doubting myself. I was like, I don't meet all the criteria in the job posting, and then I finally did apply, but like it took me 6 weeks because I was like, all right, okay, I'll do it, YOLO kind of. But so like, I can totally see like just all these things coming at junior folk. It's definitely stressful, and the pandemic is definitely not helping right now with that either. But it's no, it's great that you're working on that too. It's like, and like you said, it's a really tough problem. Like, in uh, what Christina's saying too is, it's like having the company be set up to accept juniors too. It's like there's so many things to put in place to get that to even start happening. So it's like, I don't know, we got work to do, folks. um, yeah, cool. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we're almost at the end of the year now. So for next year, what's like I mean, you're gonna continue to grow, I imagine, with the company. But I'm curious if like you have like what's a one big thing you kind of want to do for next year, maybe. I would think
Yeah.
expansion is obviously on the roadmap, obviously, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, yeah, expansion is on the road because I've been getting a lot of customers from Europe and Canada who want to post on my job board, and unfortunately, I
Mhm.
have to turn them away because I just haven't uh, grown that community. So
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the next thing to do. And
yeah,
I'm trying a different experiment to see how that would go because I personally don't like the idea of like having employees and like being like I didn't want to start a business because I wanted to grow a company. I wanted more like something that sustains me but also like is does good.
yeah,
So one of the things I'm trying to see if I can partner with somebody who can kind of sort of like a franchise. You know how sometimes you have a brand,
yeah,
but
yeah,
somebody takes that brand and grows it in their location. So that's the model I'm playing with to see if I can partner with somebody who will kind of take care of the Europe side.
yeah,
But I don't want her to be like the employee, but I want her to kind of like own it and kind of like grow
yeah,
it. So I'm
Mhm.
in the talks with somebody so to see if we can work that out. So yeah, experimenting like a different business model for this. So we'll see
Yeah.
how it goes.
yeah,
So it'll be an interesting experiment,
yeah,
business wise and also like community wise.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 No, I think that sounds like a good idea. Just based on time zones alone, like it's not
Yeah.
like you don't want to you want to work yourself to the bone being up awake in every
Yeah.
time zone. So, I mean, Canada is a little better because it's North America, but even there's going from East Coast to West
Mhm.
Coast, there's still a big time difference too. I mean, not as much as like say Europe, but yeah, no,
Mhm.
that's super cool. So, I guess that process will take a while. You said you're speaking to somebody now, but I
Mhm.
imagine you need to vet them really well because they're representing what your community currently offers.
Mhm.
It, I don't want to say you want to clone yourself, but you really want somebody that
Mhm.
has it, like is 100% like aligned with everything you're
Mhm.
doing. So
Yeah.
so I imagine that might take a while, but I feel like
Mhm.
it's gonna happen though. I'm super excited about this project, so it's great to see that you're looking to expand it.
Mm,
Yeah.
thank you.
Um,
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. Also to actually make plans and to hope that they work
yeah,
Yeah.
now that we've
yeah,
adjusted to COVID.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Mm.
here's hoping 2021 is
One
less of a dumpster
2021.
fire. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I forget who I forget who said it the other day. It's like it's been like the longest March of like 2020 or something, and now it's December. But
Yeah.
yeah, cool, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any other questions, Christina? Or maybe we can, if not, we can drop all the details again for folks. 'Cause I know there's a bunch of people in the chat now. I'm not sure if anybody has questions in there.
Just a few comments, kind of just what we were talking about as well. It's something I was thinking of when y'all were talking about the kind of the juniors in tech, but not even just juniors. I think this does apply to just like those who are underrepresented too, that a lot of times they feel like they have to know everything and have even more information, and a lot of times they do, like it's like put on them to
Mhm.
have to like know more and more before they even get that job. The nice thing about being in a job is that you then get to focus on something, right? So a lot of these
Mhm.
people would do amazing if they just were given the chance to have this job, because
Yeah.
they can then hone all that skill that they've been doing to like learn everything that we all have to learn into something that they're actually going to need to learn right there for the job. And so there was a comment kind of mentioning that. And then also just kind of this step formula of like code newbies nowadays are like, this worked for me. You do this thing, and you'll come out and you'll get a job. And that just does not work for
Yeah.
most people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's definitely the happy path, but yeah, it's like I mean, I've been in the tech industry for a while, but I remember even when I got my first job, it took me like a year, maybe
Mhm.
slightly longer, and I was just
Mhm.
you know, it's tough.
Yeah.
But keep your head
It's
up,
tough.
folks. Veni's doing great stuff. I think Christina is going to drop your details in the chat there so folks can check that out. Just wanted to say thanks so much for coming on the stream today. It was really great to learn a lot more about Diversify Tech and about your career and just meeting you finally. It's super great
Yeah.
chatting with you today. And
Yeah.
hoping for a 2021 that is less dumpster fire. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and boo 2020. Is there anything
Yeah.
else you wanted to say before we jump off, Veni?
No, but thank you so much for having me. It was great to chat with both of you too.
Yep.
Cool,
And if
cool.
you don't follow her, definitely do her the whole journey and everything going on with Diversify Tech and stuff. It's been great to watch. So definitely follow her if you're not, and check out Diversify Tech.
Cool, cool.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. See you later.